Okay, welcome to tonight's chart and trade focus. Just firstly wanted to quickly just revisit the stocks we mentioned last night because some of them had some amazing moves. First one's AVB, closed yesterday at 11 cents, actually gapped up and opened this morning at 12.5 and powered on to close at 18.5 cents. So pretty impressive effort there by AVB on increasing volume. We'll just have a quick look at the intraday chart. There you can see Thursday's high of 10.5, which was breached Friday, gapped up from there, and it was pretty much an uptrend all day. Had one little retrace here. I missed much of this run. I think I locked a lot of mine in. I had the options actually. I locked them in when the heads was around 15 cents, 14 to 15 cents as it was spiking. It looked like it had pretty much done it at that stage, and I locked some in. Took another little scalp late in the afternoon, but I'm out of that one at the moment. But a very impressive run, that's for sure. Next one we'll quickly have a look at is MHM. Another one you don't expect on a Monday morning. We mentioned on Friday's video that this had a $3 valuation on Friday afternoon, and we got the gap I spoke of. So it opened nicely at $1.15. I locked quite a few in on open. Locked the rest in a little later in the day. It's made an odd looking candle here, quite long wicks both ways, so a bit of indecision now. I would expect whether this can fill this gap or not, I don't know, but we may get a few days consolidation in here. We'll have a quick look at the intraday. That's the 15 minute, we'll just go to the daily. So this is from the gap up from the previous day. You can see even on a break of that initial intra high of 19.5, you still would have got a nice little trade towards the end of the day. Or if you were looking for the swing, you'd probably look at a trend line on this little downtrend here. There's the break, this bar here. Not really a lot of extra volume kicking in. Let's get rid of that. A little extra, not a heap, but the run was in. I think I actually tweeted this swing low in the afternoon. I bought a few at $1.09, covered them up around here somewhere, I believe, for a nice little scalp, but didn't go too hard because I wasn't too convinced with the additional volume that kicked in. But as you can see, it did kick in as that leg continued. All right, we'll go back to end of day, and the other one was PEC, and again PEC's gapped up nicely today through that previous high of 48 and powered on nicely. We'll go to the intraday. And again, just looking at breaking these initial highs in a strong market, breaking the initial high or shorting the initial low can be a really strong way to scalp some of these. So initial high in its little first run was 51.5, consolidated for a little, and then broke. And again, look at the extra volume that's kicked in on that break. So you could have, if you've missed the gap, you're not in overnight. The break of that initial high was still a nice little entry. It's found a high, spiked to 63, we found a high around 60 really, and sort of consolidated around there quite well for the rest of the day. Whether that can kick on again or not, I don't know, but it certainly held up pretty well. So part of the rare earths sector, and of course they're all going pretty ballistic at the moment. We'll have a look at one now that was quite interesting today and maybe a chance to kick on tomorrow. This is Arafura, ARU. As you can see, the high on the 28th of September is $1.24. It's touched it the next day, got a nice little dip here, and it's actually touched it again today, but almost touched it, I should say, 23.5, closed just below it. So a break of 24 then there, especially with some decent volume, and you would think that's going to have a little more in it yet. We'll go to the intraday chart. That's up here is where it's hit 23.5. But even with this one, it's been quite strong early. $1.20 highs on those initial bars. You've got a nice dip, bit of volume kicked in on the bounce, and if you buy a break of that initial high to $1.20, there was a nice run in this. I'm in this one, looking for this break of $1.24. As far as stops are concerned, I'll probably give it back down to this support here around $1.20. So if $1.20 doesn't hold, I'll be out of that one. Alright, so that's ARU. Another one we looked at last night was WES. Have a look at some of the larger cap stocks. We're looking for this swing swing low setup. It did actually, I'll go, as you can see on the daily, it did actually breach the 33.26 high from Friday. It's hit 33.30, but was nicely up from the close of that day. So we'll go to, but it couldn't kick on, as you can see. We'll go to the intraday chart here. I think we'll pull that into a 5-minute chart. So there's the intraday chart, and again a nice double bottom here, intraday double bottom, which could have given you a signal. Once that double bottom's in play, you want to see a break of this little resistance here, which is 32.96. So 32.96 was an early entry to get some of this run. Safer entry would have been a break of that early high, which was 33.08, and again that got you quite a nice run. So if you were looking for that swing trade, there was a few early entries to get yourself in. Short trade in the afternoon, which I didn't take, you'd possibly be looking at a break of this dip here. So it dipped to 33.19, couldn't really kick on to the upside, so a shorter to break of that, and you would have had a nice 15-tick trade and possibly been in it overnight. That's whereas we'll look at another larger cap stock. These are some of may be of interest tomorrow. ASX is the first one. I've mentioned ASX several times in the video, shorting it on each of these days. Was out on Thursday or Friday, or I think I was out most of the days. I held some overnight Thursday and then was out the last of that on Friday from memory. It's bounced very nicely and certainly made that swing low today. Couldn't close too close to its highs, but the one thing that concerns me with this swing is the volume. As you can see, it's quite a low volume day, and you've probably heard me mention several times with the swing I like to see some sort of associated breakout in volume. So the volume was falling nicely on the price decline, but hasn't been able to kick on as yet on the bounce. So this one will interest me from both the short and long perspective tomorrow. We'll go to intraday chart, looking for potential entries. If it breaks either this 33 or the 33.04 tomorrow, I'll probably look for that swing to continue and look for a possible long trade. If it opens and can't kick on from, especially from this low, I mean ASX of the US is down, it's most likely to gap down anyway, but so I'd imagine it would gap lower than that. But if it does make some attempt to bounce and fails, then a break of this, and we'll probably see me short scalp it once again. There's a couple of other charts that look relatively similar with a swing shaping, but on very low volume. There's Bradkin, another one where a nice swing low looks to be shaping up, but the volume's quite low. And there was another one I saw as well, and now it's completely slipped my mind. WAN, that's what it was, WAN. Have a look at WAN. Nice swing. This one's actually broken a couple of previous highs, so there might be a little more in it. But again, the volume's quite low, one of the lowest volume days. Public holiday in Sydney today, so volumes across the board were quite low. May have well contributed to our strength today. Possibly a larger percentage of trades being retail sector. So this WAN trade, if it can kick on, today's high was 734, close at 732, so pretty close to its highs. Has res at 740 and 743. I'd probably now be prepared to wait for a break of this area here before I looked for that long trade. But if it can't kick on, we'll go to the intraday. If it can't kick on tomorrow, possibly if it breaks that 728 support, we'll be looking that it's made a lower high and possibly there's a little bit more in it to the short side. That's about all I've got for you today. Like I said, very, very strong start to the week with those three huge gapping plays. So I'll go slightly into protection mode for the rest of the week now and try and not do anything too silly and give too much back. But US futures at the moment I think are down. So if US is down tonight, you'd expect we may give a little bit of today's gains back, but certainly the market's looking pretty resilient at the moment. We'll have a quick look at the XJO, see if we can make anything of that. Go to an end of day chart. Again, looks like a nice swing. I'm sure it was on low volume. So now we need to see today's high breach. So a breach of 46.44 or so would look quite good on the chart. Obviously, we need to break this area here, and then ultimately 47 to be continuing on our way. But still, pretty much, in no man's land. I think the chart's not telling us an awful lot there as to which direction we're going to go. But as you could see, especially in the spec end, there's some awesome trades around at the moment. Rare earth sector is still incredibly strong. And I'll focus a lot of my attention at the micro end of the market while it's running so hard. So until that stops, that's where my attention will be, and then maybe it'll eventually drift back up towards the larger cap end of the market. But for now, it's definitely down in the spec end. All right, happy trading.